Great. And good morning again, everybody. Happy March 16th. We're going to start off and jump in right with a roll call. So we'll start with CB1.
Good morning. This is Tammy Meltzer from Manhattan Community Board 1. Happy March.
Happy March. CB2.
Good morning, Janine Kiley, Manhattan Community Board 2.
Thanks. CB3.
Morning, Tariq Darrell, Manhattan Community Board 3.
Happy first Borough Board to you, Tariq. Happy you're here. CB4.
Good morning, Jeffrey LaFrancois from the M11 this morning for CB4.
Oh, thank you, Jeffrey. I love commuting through the bus. CB5.
Good morning, Vicky Barbaro, CB5.
Nice, Vicky. CB6.
Good morning, everyone. Kyle Thide from CB6.
CB7.
Good morning, Beverly Donahue, CB7.
Morning, Beverly. CB8.
Good morning, Russell Squire, CB8.
Thanks for being here, Russell. Hope your last night wasn't too long. CB9. I don't see Barry on just yet. CB10. Mr. Powell, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Good morning, Charles Powell for CB10.
Thank you. CB11.
Good morning, CB11, Xavier Santiago, the fiscal drop off.
Hey, Xavier. Say hi to the kids. And CB12.
And we'll
Good morning, Catherine Diaz for CB12.
Good morning, Catherine. Thanks for being here. I see, do I have an adoption of the March 16th Borough Board meeting agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Tammy. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? The meeting agenda is adopted. Do I have an approval of the February 16th Borough Board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? The minutes are approved. I see a few of our council members have been able to join us this morning. So I think if it's okay with everybody, I'm gonna say welcome to Councilmember Gail Brewer and then Councilmember Sean Abreu. Thank you both for being here. Councilmember Brewer, I think I just asked you to unmute. You're good. Councilmember Brewer?
Yeah, you want me to go ahead? Okay, I'm sorry.
You're good.
A couple of things. We have a council meeting today, and I think the budget is what is most ongoing with lots of questions. If people have anything that they want us to ask, let us know. Today I'm going to be introducing something which is always controversial, another bill to try to address the siren noise issue. We'll see if anything works, but we're going to try that. I know that Councilmember Rivera has one also, and also on the leaf blowers by limiting the decibel levels and trying to figure out if people could use a different kind of leaf blower. The electric ones are quiet, the diesel ones are not. So those are two requests that have come many, many times. Also, believe it or not, I'm very focused on archives for elected officials and everybody else also. So this bill would just mandate that the council members also include their social media when they retain, when the material is retained by the Department of Records and Information Services. It's not a big deal. I would be interested though, what do you do with retaining for archives all of the community board information? Something maybe it's all taken care of, but something to think about. The mayor, I believe, is going to sign the bills that deal with all of the combustible batteries on Monday morning. And again, hopefully it will make a somewhat of a difference. Mine basically says you can't sell the battery that has one cell transferred to another battery. That's what's causing some of the problems. But again, we don't know that'll make a difference, because people are still gonna go with cheapest batteries. So we do need a better system. We also need to figure out the charging situation. As the Community Board 7 and Beverly Dunn, the community's not ecstatic about the location that the mayor selected on 72nd and Broadway. So I am looking for other locations, but we do need to find something. We are also, I want to say good cause is controversial, but I wish it would pass in Albany. I have so many complaints about people who cannot stay in their apartment because the rent in the market rate goes up so high, and it doesn't seem like there's a reason why they are getting evicted. I want to just, in terms of the community, I think I spoke about this before, but I'm very excited. It is ongoing with Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal, and funding from her and funding from the speaker. We are literally going door to door with all of the Amsterdam houses, NYCHA development. Focused on people up to 26, but it could be anybody. What can we do? Do you need a job? Do you need schooling, etc.? And explain to them that we actually have these opportunities. Goddard has them, the settlement houses have them, the city has them. And so far it's going pretty well. The other thing we've done is open up the community center on the weekends and evenings. Guess what? People are showing up. We have programs. They're actually showing up for resume, for other kinds of assistance that they might need. So I am really excited. Fordham University is doing the evaluation, so we will know whether or not the whole program is successful. And it might be something that we can do citywide. In terms of the budget, it goes until the end of the month, hearings. I know education went, I think, all the way till 10 o'clock last night, from 10 o'clock in the morning. So people are interested. I think education is going to be a big challenge in terms of we asked the chancellor, what will be your budget for next year? And we could not get an answer. We only could get the budget for this year. And people are concerned that the schools are going to be cut. CUNY is obviously an issue. The library is an issue. And there are many more. So that's a short version of some of the things we're up to. And thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Councilmember. Next, we have Councilmember Borough. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Tricia. I would like to say that, excuse me, there are a few things that we're working on. We're working on the right to counsel. We have an eviction crisis that is being inflamed by our very own legal system. There are now 17,000 cases that are underway in housing court with tenants who do not have legal representation. I've introduced legislation. First, one of them is a resolution calling on the state to slow the pace of cases. I believe Senator Hoylman has a bill that would slow the pace of cases. And we also introduced a bill that would have the city do an estimate to see what would be the cost to addressing pay parity, assuming right to counsel lawyers are paid the same rate of lawyers in that of the law department. We had a hearing on height and weight discrimination, our bill that would ban discrimination on height and weight. It may seem frivolous, but it is a serious issue that adversely impacts millions of New Yorkers, especially non-white women. I have introduced legislation to make height and weight a protected category. We had people dozens of people who testified, which we're very excited for, and we believe that there should be movement of the city council very soon. Regarding the elevators at 125th Street, in partnership with the MTA, Columbia, and Borough President Levine, we are breaking ground on designing elevators at 125th Street Station. It is unacceptable that north of 96th Street, there's only a single station at the one line. 231st Street in the Bronx, that accommodates elders, people with disabilities, and parents with strollers. We are changing that by bringing them up to 125th Street. We're very encouraged about that. Regarding scaffolding, Borough President Mark Levine shed the shed plan as an important step towards getting scaffolding down across the city. These construction sheds and netting are ugly. They push pedestrians onto the street, and they are up far longer than they need to be. And I look forward to working with the Borough President on this. We just got notice yesterday from the Speaker's office that our bill will be aging and therefore passing at the next stated. That would require that that HRA provides private landlords with an option for electronic payment of city benefits. It's something that we have seen in NYCHA, but it's not something that we've seen with private landlords at a big scale. And so we have seen a case recently in Harlem where tenants were evicted because the city didn't make their payments on time. And we believe that the timeliness issue could be addressed by these electronic payment options. So just want to thank community boards, want to thank the Board President's office for, really helping us tackle a lot of these issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Abreu. I see we've been joined by our Manhattan Borough President. Oh, who's muted?
There we go. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Richard. Great to see all of you. Great updates I got to hear so far. I want to just start by acknowledging the horrific 3 shootings outside of schools on the west side and uptown earlier this week. Just horrifying that young people in our borough are being subjected to this degree of gun violence. And as last I've gotten a report, the police are not discounting the possibility of a connection between the 3 because of how close they were in time and proximity. And they have had an extra presence in front of the school buildings, the MLK campus, Renaissance up in Central Harlem, and the school and park in 105th. I believe those will be in place again today. But of course, what we really need to do is just invest more in young people who are clearly being led astray. And so we've been in touch with a number of youth serving nonprofits around Manhattan in the last couple of days about thinking big on how we can do even more for at-risk young people. And we welcome your thoughts on this. It's just clear everything we're doing is not enough when we see incidents like this. We'll keep you updated on these investigations and that key question about whether they're related. But I think we know enough now to know we have to do more to invest in young people to keep them safe. My goodness, especially at their school buildings. Onto a less somber note. I want to welcome to the board our new CB3 chair. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, but Tariq Doral, is that right? Welcome. Thank you. Great to see you and excited to work with you, Tariq. You're going to be a great leader on a keyboard. Councilmember Borough talked very passionately and accurately about the challenge we're facing on scaffolding. I think Sean has been a great partner. Thank you. And so a number of other council members, Councilmember Powers, Councilmember Botcher, and I think even Councilmember Menon is going to have some legislation on this. It's a serious problem. We've now got 4,000 sidewalk sheds in Manhattan. That's just Manhattan, 4,000. And the average is over 400 days each. But there are over 200 that have been up more than 5 years. And a significant number that have been up even more than 10, and a small handful up more than 15 years, a couple approaching 20 years. You know this, you're seeing it at every board, you're getting complaints about it. It's out of control. It is a safety issue because it creates dark spots where people who are up to no good can congregate. It can hurt small businesses because it blocks out the view of their facades and makes it hard for the public to even know they're there. And they're just ugly. As one TV interview said on the program I was on this week, they're fugly. And we've got to do better. We have a multi-part plan, which I encourage you to read. And if the team hasn't done it, maybe you can drop that into the chat. But it first focuses on helping buildings get the facade work done quickly. At the end of the day, that's what has to happen for the sheds to come down. And there are buildings who want to, who don't have the funds. This is particularly common with HDFCs. We see it uptown and elsewhere, where the cost of a facade repair can be $1 million, multiple millions, and they just don't have the cash. It's cheaper to simply pay for the shed and to rent it year to year. So we want to create a low interest loan fund to allow them to just quickly access financing to do the facade work and then take the shed down. But we don't want to only have carrots. We have some sticks we suggest as well, including increasing the fines for buildings that just refuse to do this, and ultimately that the city would go in and just do the work, make the repairs on the facade, take the shed down, and bill the owner, put a lien on the building. We want them to use that power. We also look at changes to the way local law 11 itself works by acknowledging that there are some buildings that probably don't need a strict 5-year inspection timeline. They probably could do a 7-year timeline, such as buildings that have just completed a major facade renovation, such as buildings that are brand new, such as buildings that are made of material like steel and glass, which doesn't tend to deteriorate the way that, say, terracotta does. We've also looked at the bureaucracy involved in delays. You're probably familiar with this if it's in a designated historic district, that LPC can add 8 months while they're waiting for an approval, and sometimes even more than that. We want to create a dedicated unit at LPC that is focused just on approving facade repairs to expedite that, so that is not a source of delay. And there's more to the plan, which I won't get into, but we have gotten an incredible response. I had to say it's probably the best response we've gotten any policy we've done, certainly in my time as BP, and political response as well. I mentioned that the council's is going full force on many pieces of this will require legislation. They're going full force on that. In fact, later today, I'll be joining Councilmember Powers as he intros one key piece of the bill, one bill that's a key piece of the plan. And even the mayor himself has told me that he actually wants to do this. So I think the political stars are aligned in a way that haven't been in a long time. And we definitely want you all as partners as we push this over the months ahead. We're in the home stretch on community board recruiting. We have been all out there. How many of you have seen our cute Wi-Fi ads? Yeah, okay. Well, we've gotten good feedback on them. They've been fun, but we've also done more serious work, direct outreach to, I myself and the team have done outreach to NYCHA developments, reaching out to youth organizations and education groups, trying to draw in applicants from underrepresented parts of the borough. And it's going great. Tricia, are we announcing a slight news on the deadline? Okay. Good news. I think breaking news for all of you procrastinators, we are extending the deadline for application for community boards to March 30th. So if you have been waiting and you just want a little extra time to polish off your perfect application, please do it now. But I don't expect this is probably the group I need to talk to about that. We'll be spreading the word, and please also spread the word. You have 2 more weeks almost to get that perfect application in. So let's keep pushing, guys. We want to maximize turnout here. I think that is it from me. So Tricia, I'm going to pass it back to you. But really great to see everybody, and looking forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thanks so much, Borough President. Alrighty, guys, we're gonna continue on. I just want to also say that we've been joined by a number of other members of the BP team. So I see our Deputy Borough President Keisha Sutton James on. I see a number of directors whom I hope that you're familiar with, but Lizette Chaparro from Land Use, Chris Carroll from Policy, Tommy Vest, our General Counsel, I'm sure, and then of course a great group of our team CAU folks whom you are, I know, very familiar with. Keisha, are you trying to say something or no? Okay. Okay, so with that, I think we're gonna move on. I'm really excited about our speaker today, and I hope that you are too. We are thrilled to be joined by Jolie Golden from the U.S. Census Bureau. I will just point out at the very beginning of this that I'm going to have an ask for you. I'm going to have an ask for all the board chairs after this presentation with relation to Jolie and a partnership that we're doing coming up. So keep your ear out for hopefully a resource that we can better bring to to other nonprofits and other community groups in your districts, because that's going to be my ask in the coming up. But with that, we'll pass it over to Jolie for a presentation on accessing data sets.
Hi, everyone. Tricia, can you hear me? Everyone
Yes.
can hear me? Great. Good morning. I'm Jolie Golden. I'm a data dissemination specialist from the U.S. Census Bureau. It is amazing to be here with all of you. My last role in the Census Bureau was as a partnership specialist during the decennial census. So I worked with multiple community boards. I live on the Upper West Side. I work at home and out in the field. And I'm going to give you a taste of census data and how to access it in about 10 minutes. Please put your questions in the chat. We're going to do one exercise together, and I'm hoping that this will prompt you not only to help share out something that Tricia is going to mention after I speak, but to set up something either with your district managers or a short presentation for your board where I can show you specific data for your local community and your local community board. It is amazing to have so much data at your fingertips for free. And sometimes it just takes a little bit to get to access it. So in terms of finding data, this tool that I have on the right-hand side, the Census Survey Explorer, if you weren't sure how to, you knew you wanted to find, say, something about juvenile crime, but you weren't sure where to find that data, you can pop those keywords right in here, look at the geography, the frequency of these drop downs, and it will bring up different surveys and different ways to access information. The bedrock of census data, which we'll look at, is data.census.gov, which has the decennial redistricting files along with a treasure trove of other information. So I'll share that in a bit, but just in case you wondered what we were doing the 9 years in between the decennial census, which last happened in 2020, we do 130 surveys and programs, including the American Community Survey, where we do a random sampling of 3.5 million households every year. And those our census takers are out in the field and doing those surveys, doing that field work, and knocking on doors in your community. So just so you know. So we'll breeze through a few slides and then go right to a little bit of live demonstration, and we'll see if everyone can find something on their phone, which I think is a really nice, easy way to pick up a lot of local information. So this is data available on data.census.gov, and it covers, as you can see, the American Community Survey, the economic census, population estimates. You can drill down through advanced search on a number of tools and topics. And this is where, census data is where those wonderful tools from New York City, like New York City Population Fact Finder, are powered. So they're basically pulling from our data, but the census website is going to always be the most up to date because sometimes there's up to a year lag between the other websites that pull from us. This is just a quick look at a page of the American Community Survey with 72 questions. It goes very deep, including asking important questions related to race and country of origin. The data is cross-tabulated, and that's what yields thousands of tables on data.census.gov. I wanted to mention specifically about those race and ethnicity questions. We are reviewing those questions, and there's a town hall that's taking place on Saturday. The last one is happening tomorrow, one's happening on Saturday. I'm happy to forward this link in the chat, but this is where we collect more public input about changing those race and ethnicity standards. It's pretty fascinating. It will take a while to make any changes, but I just wanted you to know that we want to be able to better count people and to make sure that we are counting people properly. Sometimes people ask, what is on the American Community Survey? Like, what data can I access? And I have to tell you that it is a wealth of information. So what you're seeing right now on your screen is a bunch of different characteristics of the survey. So if you said to me, Julie, I want to search, I want to see how people commute to work in my neighborhood, or in my zip code, or in my census tract. Sometimes we can get you 5-year average data. Sometimes we'll get down to 1-year average data. And one of the more interesting statistics I think that's come up in the past few years is now we also have data on remote working or working from home. So this is data.census.gov. It's an easy landing page. You can do a general search, putting in a keyword, something like income in the Bronx or poverty in Manhattan, or you can drill down to advanced search. So I'm gonna just mention a few words about how to find data for your community board district. So thanks to a partnership with New York City, public use microdata areas are mapped in New York City to community boards. In certain places, they may be combined, like I worked with District 4 and 5, and that, you know, we can get around that. But like District 7, District 8, you can look directly for data related to your community board through public use microdata area. And I can show you how to do that. We won't go in depth right now because we just have a few minutes, but it's something that could easily be shown and I think would be very helpful. In terms of the data releases, just know those Pumas at 100,000 and over in population, that's the low bar for a public use microdata area, are released annually. So you can get 1-year statistics on that data, as opposed to smaller geographies like census tracts, which are usually around 4,000 in population, where you would need to rely on our 5-year average data, which is released every December. And what I'm going to do very shortly is show you how to get to this map. So just so that you can see the power of finding the data, mapping the data, and how quick it can be. But it's really helpful if we do just a little bit of training, not on this call, but separately. And we could drill down into whatever statistics, whatever variables are of interest to you. This is our narrative profile, which if we have time, we'll do a little lookup on our phones. One of the things that's really interesting about the narrative profile, which will generate a lot of tables and very specific popular, most popularly search data, is that we added an address lookup feature. So if ever you were thinking, I want to find data that's right near this school, or I want to find data right near my community center, or this nonprofit, you can use the address lookup and it will bring up the specific tract number, the zip code, the local geographies that make it a lot easier to search. We have business tools. We have an amazing new broadband dashboard that will, it's a super powerful tool similar to our remote outreach area mapper that you might have used in the decennial. So now I'm going to hop out of this. Bear with me as I share. Trisha, how am I on time?
You're good. Thanks.
Okay, I'm just letting you know because I really would like to show you. Hopefully, I'm going to share my calendar for a second while I get to. So here's data.census.gov, and if we were in a training session, we'd go nice and slowly, and you would be moving right along with me. But I'm just going to show you just how powerful and quickly you can get to things. I'm going to advanced search. I'm going to put in, hold on, I wanted to put the question. So here's the question that we're going to do. What is the tract with the highest number of children aged 3 and over enrolled in school in Manhattan? Use a map to show this tract as it compares to other tracts in the county, and then change the coloring of the map. So I know everyone remembers that, but I'm going to put it in the chat because I find that That way you can follow along with what I'm doing. So I'm going to look at data from 2021. I always select the year first. I'm going to geography, and the most popular tracts are up here at the top. I'm going to select census tract, and then go to New York, because I'm in New York State, right? And I know I want New York County for Manhattan, right? New York County, Manhattan, Richmond County, Staten Island, Kings County, Brooklyn. And at the top, this is very helpful, all census tracts within New York, within New York County. And for my topic, I can choose in any of these buckets, and there are drop downs. So if I wanted something specific relating to housing or income, I could go there. I'm going to education and clicking on school enrollment, and everything that I selected is on the left here. I click on search, and what comes up are 24 tables. Sometimes if you don't put in your topic or you don't put in your year, you'll come up with thousands of tables. You're much better off with 24 tables. So because we're focused on school enrollment in this example, I'm going to click on school enrollment, and I'm going to be patient for a second while my data loads. But whoa, what do I get? A stop sign. No, it's a yield sign. It's not a stop sign. Right down here, I'm going to click open the table. And now you can see that my data is loaded. And I'm just going to expand this. So I'm going to remove the margin of error. And not only do I see school enrollment, but what's pretty fascinating here is you can see the breakdown. You can see the breakdown by public and private school and the percentage estimates. Now, don't look at track number 1, because track number 1 is like way south in Manhattan and is basically the water and has no data. If you see tracks without data, you know that there's probably a big park or a highway or something there. And you can export this to Excel, CSV, or zip file. But what we're going to do is we're going to map this. Personally, I love to map. And we're going to be very patient here for a second while this data loads. And not only can I see all of the tracts in Manhattan, but over here in the legend, it shows me this is population 3 and over. If I wanted a different variable from that table, just to show you how deep you can go, I could choose grades 1 to 4. I could choose, there's a whole bunch of data, and it will dynamically keep reloading. So since we started with 3 and over, I'm going to go back to that one, and I'm going to show you here how we can use a histogram. And I know you can all do this at home. And I'm dragging the histogram, and that's dynamically changing the categories here. So I wanted to get to the 2 highest population of 3 years and over. And I'm going to change the color of my map to purple. I like purple. If you like green, you can change it to green or any other color you want. And I'm making the tracks deeper so that I can see the ones that are the highest. And then I can click on these tracks, and they happen to be up near Morningside Heights. So that makes sense, right? Population 3 and over enrolled in school. What do we know is up there? If we wanted to look, we could see Tricia, probably your old stomping grounds. We know that Columbia University is up there, so it makes sense that there would be a lot of housing, but there are many other tracks, and everything will keep changing. So this is just an example of how you can get to census data and how you can map it. But we can do a lot more just related to your community and to the different topics here, whether it's language spoken at home, whether it's country of origin, whether people have health insurance, whether people are collecting SNAP benefits, just a treasure trove of information, which is helpful for grants and clearly thought processes in terms of the community. So that is my example. And then Tricia, do we have 1 more minute?
Yeah, no, you're good.
All right, 1 more minute. Everyone take out their phone, because I know phones are never far from us, and look up census narrative profile. And I'm doing it with you. I'm putting it right into my Google browser. And when you click on census narrative profile, the first thing that comes up is Narrative Profiles American Community Survey from the Census Bureau. And if you click on that, you can see, here's my phone right here, which isn't showing up, but you'll see right under where it says use geography selector, it says use address lookup. How's everyone doing? Thumbs up? Click on use address lookup on your phone and then enter whatever address you want to. Your address, your parents' address, your kid's address, whatever is of interest. I entered 1 Center Street just because we were looking at, just because even though we're virtual, I think of us, at 1 Center Street. And when you enter, after you enter that address and press enter, which I'm doing now, you click on look up address. You should see give it a second and it'll load. And you should see match found. Does everyone see match found? And what you can see below that, Trisha, you get 100%. You're right on target. Everyone okay? What you can see below is for that particular address, you can see a census tract, a zip code. What's ZCTA for zip code tabulation area is actually our word for zip code. It's an aerial view of the zip code. It's something we've trademarked. You can see a place, and with any of them, just click on one where it says view narrative profile. And what you'll see is a whole bunch of tables and information that will generate in a narrative form. And from there, for everyone who found that, you can scroll all the way down past education, past disability, to past occupations, to commuting to work. And I'm curious if you want to put in the chat, like I'll put in the chat what my worked from home percentage for 1 Center Street. So I'm going to end our live demonstration for today with this fun activity you can do on your phone. But I would encourage you to please reach out. I would love to set something up with each community board so that we can dig into your data, whether it's at a committee level or with one of you and the district manager or the district manager staff. It is a wealth of resource, and frankly, it's a resource that people sell back all the time. People buy our data through for-profit venues when, frankly, it is, there's a lot that you can do on your own, and it's free, and it'll help to greatly inform your work.
Jolie, this is great and extremely interesting. I think that there are a couple of questions that I may want to ask you to address. One of them is just how do you, if you could maybe spend a minute just talking about how to do this for the community, for one's community board.
Sure. So, I mean, we can do, during the decennial census, I spent a lot of time going to community board meetings, all great. And there was constantly updated information. what we could do at the community board level, like we could do a similar exercise to this. We could do 10 minutes of presentation. We can focus that presentation specifically on some data that you're interested. So the screenshots in the demo would reflect something that may be a topic of interest at your community board. Whether it be housing, health, transportation, and then we could show them how to get to the census narrative profile for their address, which just may be a way to open up the public more to census data. I think it's also census data. I do a presentation that's specifically on Census Business Builder. I do a presentation that's specifically on census data for grant writing purposes. So there are a lot of options. I'm starting with Manhattan. Like I started with Trisha and I cover all of New York City, as opposed to during the decennial census when there were 1,500 of us across the country, there are 35 of us. So I know the value of the community boards and I started here first. But it's, my time goes to nonprofits. I teach and sometimes I'm a guest speaker in a sociology class. Like it's, and I'm just starting, so.
That's fantastic. So I just want to say, and I know that some folks may have more questions, or you may be playing with this for the rest of the presentation, but the rest of the borough board. But so my ask to the boards on April 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. The Borough President's Office is partnering with the U.S. Census Bureau to hold a virtual training specifically geared towards nonprofit organizations and community organizations so that they can kind of do this, except a little bit more intensive towards trying to access and manipulate and play with their data. It's a great tool for nonprofit organizations who are looking at needs assessments or trying to assess the communities that they serve in. And my ask is if your community board would be willing to co-sponsor this event with us and then help us promote it to your neighborhoods. So I see Tariq, and so if either you could put it in the chat or you can tell me in your reports, but I'd like to put your name on our flyer, and then as soon as possible, we want to just promote it to everybody. We have it on a nonprofit list that we're blasting it out to, but would then send it to you so that you guys can send it out too. It would again be kind of like this, and then it'll be a little bit more intensive. I will also say Jolie's not able to present at our Borough Service Cabinet meeting this month, but we're going to try to get her next month there. So your district managers will also get a little bit more of a kind of intensive hands-on training on this too, just in case it's helpful for them, as I suspect it will be, for them to have access to this and get to play around with it a little bit. So we're going to do that not this month, but next month for Borough Service Cabinet. And yeah, I think it's a really cool tool. I love the mapping too as well. I think it's something that has a lot of power. We just need to kind of learn how to get into it. Does anybody have any other questions for Jolie? I see Tammy.
So I think one of the hard things about going through a census tract like this is there's so many factors, but I think one of the things that I'd be interested in to share this with our board is if you had a one sheet on how to get your community board, like the 10 steps that she took us through really fast, to have like a cheat sheet that said, so you could know what qualifiers specifically will get you down to the information for your community board. That would be really helpful, because then that, no matter what you're looking for in terms of topic, you have to narrow it down for your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And having a cheat sheet on how to do that would be fabulous.
Yeah, I don't honestly there's no I wish I could say that there's like a graphics department specifically powering us for that level of detail, but one thing that would be very easy for me to do is just outline the steps for you in an email that you can forward to people, just in terms of being efficient in terms of time. And we certainly, I completely hear you about the ability to have the takeaway. So I think I probably have a flyer template somewhere where I could put that in there. Would be happy to share.
And it looks like Barry also just shared steps here too. If you are kind of interested in playing around, please pay attention to the rest of the speakers today, but also thank you, Barry.
Yeah, I'm having Barry come down to CB1 for a couple days.
Last call for any additional questions for Julie. Otherwise, we'll say thank you. We'll see you on April 3rd.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tricia, and thank you everyone for all of your community service and for hosting me today. I look forward to being in touch.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, guys, that was, I hope you enjoyed that. I love that. We'll move on in the agenda with chair reports. And like I said, I took a note here. CCV 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9 are all okay. 11 with me adding your names to our flyer, but no worries if you want to think about it, or if you, I'll bug you and reach out to you afterwards if you haven't responded. But we'll try to get that flyer out as soon as we can so that everybody can have something that they can blast out to their networks. Again, it's April 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. virtually. And we just, again, we're kind of targeting nonprofit organizations, but certainly anybody is welcome to join. With that, we're gonna welcome Tariq Jarrell, who just happens to be March, so it's your time to shine. Tariq, for updates from CB3, and welcome.
Thank you, Tricia. Good morning, everyone. I am in the second week in the role, but I look forward to collaborating with you all over the next couple of months. My report will be very short. Just wanted to inform everybody that we actually have about 4 NYCHA developments going through the PACT program. So we are actually organizing a NYCHA town hall, possibly happening in April or May with the leadership of NYCHA. So I will keep everyone updated on when that occurs. I should be receiving an update this month at exec. And yeah, that was pretty, and I'm looking at some of the other reports. Catherine, I'm definitely going to reach out to you to talk more, get more ideas around your Meet Community Board series and how that's going. I'd love to hear more and get some ideas for CB3. And one of the biggest goals for Community Board 3 is I'm going to be organizing kind of a community outreach social media task force to really talk about how we can engage the community and get a more diverse perspective in our committee meetings, but also to support outreach for community board at large. So that is my report for this month. I'm sure I'll have more next month.
That's great, Tariq, and thank you. Welcome again. Hopefully, I know for sure that you'll get a lot of knowledge and support from this group. It's a really wonderful group of leaders here. So we're happy to have you. Next, we'll have, speaking of great leaders, next we'll have CB4.
Thanks, Tricia, and welcome, Tariq. Lucky you to be speaker 1 out the gate, and looking forward to working with you the rest of this year. Couple of updates from Board 4 on the west side. We continue to engage with the Port Authority regarding the redevelopment of the terminal and additional construction in the area. We were recently let down to learn they're scaling back their plans for a number of reasons. And of course, those additional towers were going to be residential. So we're not too happy about the fact that they're scaling that back. There's still calls for an 8th Avenue tower as well as a 9th Avenue tower. Right now, the 9th Avenue tower is also supposed to be commercial, which if you're tracking real estate in this town, you know that's kind of a rough gamble right now. So we're pushing hard to get that to be a significant residential development in Hell's Kitchen, with the overall goal of course, knitting Hell's Kitchen back together, given what the Port Authority did to the neighborhood all those years ago when they came in and really sliced and diced it up. Tariq mentioned NYCHA. We have 2 NYCHA developments. We actually have 3 NYCHA developments in Board 4, but 2 of them in particular, Fulton Houses and Elliott Chelsea, are undergoing some internal discussions with regards to how they want to proceed with sort of the redevelopment of their campuses. We are keen to be listening to what they have to say, have appreciated the Borough President's office, and also waiting to listen to the conclusions that the tenants associations are coming to with how they want to proceed moving forward with the deals they've made with the city to see how they can improve their living conditions and really think about how best to bring NYCHA into the 21st century. Finally, at our full board meeting beginning of this month, we sent a letter to the governor and the mayor, basically reaffirming our understanding and expectations for the Western Rail Yards. This is the area from 30th Street to 33rd Street, 11th Avenue to 9A. It's an open rail yard right now, but eventually this site calls for very specific zoning, which includes 5.5 acres of open space, a public school with 750 seats, a whole bunch of housing, including a bunch of affordable housing that came out of the Hudson Yards commitment. And of course, we wanted to reaffirm our commitment to this zoning because there's been a lot of buzz about what's to happen with MSG, what, if anything, is going to happen as it relates to gaming or casinos. And of course, we are tracking the MSG closely, but aren't going to take any positions or take any votes on the matter until our colleagues at Board 5 have come out with their position. So we're looking forward to our continued relationship and work with them. Thanks, Vicki, and I will leave it at that. Thank you, Tricia.
Great, thanks, Jeffrey. Next, we've got CB5. Oh, Vicki, you're muted.
Okay, there I am. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Continuing the ongoing saga of Penn Station, we recommended that the governor's general project plan, or GPP, for Penn Station be entirely abandoned and not relied upon as a funding scheme. It's a liability and not an asset. We recommended sources of funding for the Penn Station redevelopment project. And in doing so, we urged the state legislature and the governor to launch a truly responsible fiscal path to success that does not depend on that flawed GPP. We urge the state to promptly apply for federal grants from USDOT, for which the project is eligible. We urged New York State to consider allocating funding from the Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act to support the Penn Station redevelopment project. And lastly, we urged Amtrak to contribute funding to support the redevelopment project. This month, we also dealt with some very important privately owned public spaces. As you all know, developers get a huge amount of extra FAR, and we reviewed the 3 of them with special permits for POPs in our district. CB5 believes that open air cafe seating in a privately owned public place has to be a public benefit only when seating and tables can be used by the public without a need for purchase or food or beverage. So of the 3, a restaurant at 31 West 57th Street agreed that anyone from the public will be able to sit on the proposed seats and use the tables without need for purchase of food or beverage. And non-paying members of the public will not be told to move if a paying customer wishes to sit and all seating is occupied. Really important in this was the restaurant owners also agreed and confirmed that any member of the public may use the restroom as needed, and will instruct the staff of the restaurant to welcome the public to use that seating in the open air cafe and to use the public bathrooms inside the restaurant. The restaurant submitted a signed affidavit agreeing to those stipulations. Lastly, we dealt with applications for our annual post-parade events around Madison Square Park. So our yearly permit applications were submitted to the Parks Department and the Street Activity Permits Office to hold those post-parade events in Madison Square Park and around it and on certain adjacent streets, which really affect in the area because there are full or partial closures that are requested. So we have longstanding concerns about that impact on the large events at Madison Square Park and the area around it. And applicants are in full compliance with our policy on large events, and there is a longstanding precedent for them. Some of them have been around for decades. Over the course of several years, applicants have worked with us and coordinated with SAPO and the Madison Square Park Conservancy to improve their events operationally and alleviate issues from prior year events. They, in doing so, they sign a statement of compliance. They provide a state map of their event. They include emergency lane clearance requirements, plans for sanitation, security, amplified sound, and cell phone contact information. They also agreed on the volume level of their amplified sound system and commit to no further increase in volume levels past 2 p.m. They also agree to notify the residential buildings surrounding the park and conduct on-site meetings with Madison Square Park Conservancy 2 weeks prior to their event to work out operational details and to anticipate any concerns. So in spite of all this, we continue to question the appropriateness of these large events and their really detrimental impact on the Flatiron neighborhood, including the considerable impact on the park in seasonal months of park usage. And we, as usual, we always implore NYPD and SAPO to proactively consider alternative locations for these events in 2024. Just picked 3 and they're finished. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vicki. Next, we're gonna go to CB5. Oh, 6, excuse me, 6.
All right, good morning, everyone. Just a couple of quick updates. So as part of our ongoing work on decriminalizing sex work, Manhattan Community Board 6 nearly unanimously passed the Massage License Decriminalization Act last week. We encourage all of the other boards to look at this as well. It removes criminal penalties for unlicensed massage work, which particularly affects a vulnerable community of our city. Second, we passed a nearly unanimous resolution opposing the Solovey group's proposal of a casino next to the United Nations. So we're very happy about that, that we're protecting our neighborhoods and making sure that a residential area remains a residential area, not an entertainment district. And then last but not least, very happy to announce in a bittersweet way that we have hired Brian Lafferty to join our team at Manhattan Community Board 6. There's quite a bit of time until he transitions out of that role, but very happy to bring him on into this new capacity. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. You owe me many coffees for that.
Absolutely. And yes, we do thank the Borough President's Office and Tricia in particular for sending Brian over.
Next, we're going to go to Beverly and CB7.
Good morning. A few things. By a very narrow vote, we tabled a resolution in support of a safe haven on West 83rd Street at our last full board. We had over 100 written comments. Very interesting that it was pretty balanced between for and against, and approximately 50 members of the public spoke. We formed a working group to research some of the questions asked at the meeting, and we'll bring the issue back to our April full board. This week, our Transportation Committee passed a resolution supporting east-west protected bike lanes on the streets. It did not address any parkland because for our board, that's sort of a third rail. That will also be on our April full board. A few new issues that we're working on. A revised plan for rebuilding the dock house at the 79th Street Boat Basin is to be presented at our next Parks Committee. The first design, which we saw in the fall, was focused on resiliency, but the design itself kind of reminded us of a Nazi pillbox above the beaches at Normandy. It was very brutal looking. We're also working on cell towers, City of Yes, and the governor's master plan for the aging, all of which will be getting hearings at our committees this month. With our various announced departures of members, we're going to be down to 43. So we're looking forward to a goodly number of new appointees this spring. Thanks.
Thanks, Beverly. And I too am looking forward to new community board members. Next we have CB8, Russell.
Thank you. And Beverly, I have to warn you, even if you guys approve the safe haven, the city can up and just change their minds on the kind of service model they want to use there, which is what they did to us. So just be warned. So for CB8, we had our full board meeting last night. It was another relatively short meeting, so we're on a pretty good streak in that regard. But I just want to highlight two of the resolutions that we passed for you all. First of all, we're continuing to deal with the 5G issue. So we were pleased to learn that it seems like the city has scaled back the number of Link NYC 5G towers that they want to build in our district. So that's positive, although we really don't like the locations for any of the towers that they proposed. So we're continuing to fight on that. But they also just came to us with very short notice that they're planning to put in additional 5G infrastructure on some lampposts that would be very close to residential buildings in our district. And so we passed a resolution in opposition to that and calling for a reasonable amount of notice to community boards before they put things like that into effect, and making sure we actually have time to get the word out to local residents who may want to address that. And then the other thing that I wanted to report on is regarding congestion pricing. We passed a resolution related to the MTA's finances, asking for reporting and auditing and transparency regarding past recent projects and how funding has been spent to ensure that the money that the city is or that the MTA is trying to collect through congestion pricing isn't just going to go into a black hole, and that it would be spent responsibly, and to make sure that we actually have procedures in place to protect public funds in that way, particularly in light of recent news reports about the comparisons between how much it costs for MTA construction projects compared to transit all over the world. So that's something we're very focused on, and that was the subject of one of our resolutions. So that's my report.
Thanks, Russell. And congratulations on a couple of good, brief or efficient meetings, we'll call it that way. I think Barry is on a call, so we're gonna move on to CB10. Oh, and yes, Mr. Powell.
I'm coming on camera, sorry. Good morning, everyone, again. Thank you so much for allowing me to come in. Our chair, Marquise Harrison, certainly sends his regards to all on the call. I'm the first vice chair, so he's asked me to give a report. I want to start out by thanking the Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, Keisha Sutton, James, and Mina White for the assistance on the subject that I'm going to start with, and that is the development of affordable housing proposed now again by the developer Bruce Titlebaum for 145th Street. As you guys may have known or seen from news reports, there's been a lot of activity around that. We originally said no to the certification that occurred earlier last year. And we are now aware that they are coming back for recertification. We've met with DCP and again, want to thank the borough president for his leadership on this subject. They are presenting at our land use committee meeting this evening. So I just thought it was be important, to mention that this is an important development process for us. We had the possibility of a truck stop, on West 145th Street in a very highly dense residential area with all sorts of environmental issues. So this is a key and important consideration for us. So ask that each of you just keep us in your prayers and keep us directed, for the benefit of our community, as community boards do. Just a few other things that Marquise asked me to bring to your attention. We did this past month, we had 2 street co-namings that we have put forward by our board and in terms of approving. One was a Reverend Dr. Frank Blashier. That is of significance to our community, as he was a distinguished faith leader in this community and advocate for so many different things for over 40 years. So that is one. And something that's very, very near and dear to me, we have also voted to approve the Black Panther Way, and that is an acknowledgement of the contributions that that organization made over the years to our community. And I was actually a member of the Harlem branch of the Black Panther Party. And so that's near and dear, and I'm so happy that we've done that. This past month, we did a good forum on, as you know, in our community, there's been issues about, this dispensary opening up. So we're very concerned about what's happening with cannabis in our community, but we did do a forum on that. And we had a meeting with the, folks that are running that process. And that is the, the Office of Cannabis Management. We met with them and we expressed our concerns that, unlike liquor applications, we are not being asked to advise on anything in relation to how those dispensaries are opening up. And so therefore, we are asking them to really, really be more sensitive to our needs and needs of the community with respect to how those things are rolling out. We consider these to be, not just a health and public safety consideration, but one in which the community needs to, to be able to opine before being told that it's coming here or it's coming there. In terms of health, we did a letter of support to the CUNY School of Public Health for a grant that they're applying for. Continue to address health disparities in our community. COVID highlighted them, but we've been addressing that for quite a long time with our healthcare providers, and we're happy that the CUNY School will be out there addressing, the historic and present day health disparities. And without going on any further, I think that is, I did acknowledge that CB10, our chair, has agreed to be on the flyer for April the 3rd. Glad that Tricia, you and Keisha reached out. And so we're in. And thank you so much for the opportunity to report.
Perfect. Thanks, Mr. Powell. We got CB10 down. I see Barry's back on, so I think we'll go back to CB9.
Hi, thanks for that. Appreciate the flexibility there. So I'll keep my update very brief. We've got some big items that continue to roll through. As Councilmember Borough said, CB9 is advocating very strongly to the governor's office and to the other relevant stakeholders to add elevators on 25th Street. This is a really important elevator. It's one of the few elevated stations in Manhattan. And it's very difficult to get up for anyone who is mobility impaired or has strollers or other things. Related to that, the Morningside Heights rezoning is continuing apace. We are close to, I think, wrapping up the environmental assessment statement, which would then get it ready for EULR, which is really where Board 9 would come in and begin, its public hearings and evaluations for the area and the rezoning that impacts us. A lot of it would upzone areas along Broadway in Amsterdam and Morningside, while downzoning contextual, a small contextual pocket on the north west part of our neighborhood. Like Board 3, we do have one or two, depending on how you look at it, NYCHA developments going through PACT. We have one development, Manhattanville Houses, and then another cluster of rehab buildings, Manhattanville Rehabs, that are going through PACT. The rehabs are farther along, and it has been a difficult process for them. They were excited to go through the process, and I think some of that excitement has worn off as it's been more difficult for them to get renovations. They were doing renovations in place, and it was a challenge. So happy to exchange notes on that, Tariq. And then members of our Housing, Zoning, and Land Use Committee and Health and Environment Committee took a tour of the Bowery Residence Committee building, a Bowery Residence Committee building up at Landing Road in the Bronx with, I believe, Deputy Borough President Keisha Sutton-James and Mina White and Tricia from the Borough President's office. This is because 1727 Amsterdam, which is not an HHC site, I think they've admitted that now, it's a city-owned site, is being proposed to be built for 120 studio units of what they're calling supportive housing, what others may call a psychiatric residential treatment facility, plus affordable housing on a site that HHC has managed but does not in fact own, and is the site of a mental health clinic and primary care facility on Amsterdam and 145th Street. It is still our position that if the city owns a piece of land and it's going to be redeveloped, it has to go through ULURP. It's charter, folks. It's not, I'm sorry. And so, you know, and in our position, if you're going to go through ULURP, you might as well do it right. So we are strongly suggesting an upzoning on that lot to R8A, which would allow 13 stories, would allow ground floor retail, the return of all of the healthcare space, and even more housing than the current proposal. So we are still engaging with the mayor's office on that. We are also going to vote tonight at our general board meeting about a resolution calling on the Department of City Planning to explore a citywide text amendment that would essentially harmonize R1, R2, and R3 variants with R4 variants. So R1, R2, and R3 are essentially single-family detached housing with side, front, and rear yards. It's a suburban zoning type. It restricts what can be developed on over 300,000 lots across the city, mostly in Queens and Staten Island. And we think if there's a housing crisis, we shouldn't be prohibiting property owners from adding housing on over 300,000 lots beyond, you know, a single family home. So R4 tends to allow more duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes. It's still a suburban, you know, form. It still has a height cap of 35 feet. Most of it is an FAR under 1. These are not like big changes, but at a certain point, we have to confront the fact that where the city, you know, was the city and had multifamily housing should not be frozen in place in lines that were established in the early 1960s when car-dependent development was what the city was pushing. Public interest has changed and the zoning should follow. So I will absolutely share that resolution when it when the outcome of tonight's vote happens. And hopefully we can maybe discuss it in a broader forum like at a borough board meeting here. And then finally, two things. We've been communicating with Amtrak about a station at 125th and 12th Avenue. There used to be a station there 100 years ago. It is an elevated set of train tracks that the Empire service runs on, and conceivably Metro North service or other train service to Penn could run on. It'd be a long-term project. They sent a letter to our congressman saying that they don't take federal money, like congressional money, which seems very strange. But we continue to work on that. And then anecdotally, we're seeing some slowdown in liquor license processing by the State Liquor Authority for some of our small businesses. We've had to, you know, make phone calls there to be like, hey, we voted on this 6 months ago. What's happening? I assume they're encountering staffing issues like many other agencies, but you know, we're hoping that we can make that process kind of run more smoothly again the way it used to. And then finally, we have a request out to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene for them to make their database of non-tobacco hookah establishment licenses public on the open data website. Because as some of the chairs discovered at a chair get together, we don't actually have hearings on those licenses, and we don't know necessarily what establishments are licensed and what aren't. So getting that data would be the first step, and that's something. Turns out that tobacco hookah licenses are illegal, so you cannot have a hookah and smoke it with tobacco in New York City because we don't allow smoke tobacco indoors. But non-tobacco hookah licenses are capped. They're issuing no more new ones, and I think we have a lot more establishments offering hookah than we have establishments licensed to offer hookah. But we would like to confirm that with data. So I will be sure to share the results of that inquiry when it comes through. But I will leave my report there. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Barry. CB11.
Hey, Trisha and everyone. Good morning. Sorry, my laptop just died. It's gotta plug it up. Thank you for everyone's patience, and I want to say, Barry, thank you so much, and all of the chairs who came to attend our little get together. It was great to have you come out to East Harlem, and I'll pass the baton, whoever wants to pick it up, and we'll get the next one going. As Barry mentioned, we did have an issue with hookah and an SLA application. So we did have and one of the things we're going to be dealing with tonight at executive is how we deal with the agencies, how we deal with outside organizations and businesses and individuals who do not comport themselves in a professional manner, as well as board members, and that may require us to go into executive session. Because it's important that as we have built dare I say, a temple of tolerance in our community board, it's important that we make space for people to be heard, to listen to one another. And as I've said since the beginning of the year, our role is to represent the community, not our own self-interest, not our own personal positions, but to be informed. It will obviously change our filter and how and the lens and how we view things, but ultimately we should lean in. And as I said to several members privately and in public, is that words, the written and spoken language, remains our most inexhaustible resource, but we will err, and we should be patient with one another. So in that regard, when it came to a SLA application, we did have a successful follow-up meeting yesterday where the business owner again was brought a very conciliatory tone and apologized for behavior and conduct, which I think is part of how we build a better community in East Harlem, and we are working towards a tenable solution. But again, we're left with the question mark of how do we deal with hookah as well, because people enjoy it. If it is using tobacco or other substances, obviously it is not legal to be done indoors. So this is something we're working together, and I thank you for bringing that up, Barry. I also appreciate the borough president bringing up, as I was at the 25th precinct last night with the shootings that happened on 126th and 5th Avenue, and then over on 104. So in the 2-5 and the 2-3, they are currently chasing their leads. They are youth. When it comes to the issues we're trying, and they do believe it is crew against crew. We are looking at ways to lean in. At the 2-5, they discussed that heavily. Chief Obey was there and several others to address the matters at hand. And they really, everyone wants to be productive in deterring and preventing and finding resources to help find, how do I put this? Resources so that they do not feel incentivized to react. And that's where we're trying to help our youth. And this is, again, intergenerational approach. Let me go to my notes right here. Bear with me. So we did have a tour here in the neighborhood with Porfirio and Trisha, and I thank you for coming out and taking a walk about East Harlem to highlight some of our issues. And we also were able to show it with the Esplanade, and something that I know Trisha is very passionate about with open space and parks, and I appreciate your advocacy there. And we're going to continue working on that. We have our full board next Tuesday, and I welcome any of the chairs, if you missed coming out, you're welcome, and we can get together. We want to exchange ideas, and I want to welcome our newest chair here as well, who also rocked up. So thank you to everyone who showed, and I'll leave it my report there. So please stay safe and have a blessed day. Thanks.
Thanks, Xavier. Next we'll go to Catherine Diaz.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm off camera. I am sparing you my very cold-driven face. And welcome, Tariq. Excited that you're here. We got a couple members who are also new, so we're all learning together. I want to thank folks who came out and the support around our community board, Meet the Board event. It was kind of like our first major event in 3+ years. And we had really great turnout and really focused on recruiting, new voices onto the board. And we have seen that a trickle effect, if you will, in increased attendance at our general meeting and at some of our meetings earlier this month. So folks, do something similar. It's a great way to get folks to join committee meetings. To talk about quickly around OTI, we met with them. Again, new information consistently rising, but we did get a bigger picture in terms of what the projects are being built to be. We were informed that there's a projected 73 towers for our district, a massive number. And so we're working with them hopefully to get a map of what all of the proposed locations are versus 4, 5, 7, and being able to have that holistic approach would help us better determine, and have community sessions in terms of why and where these locations have been chosen. Obviously having 4 on the west side of Broadway now makes sense when there's a total of 73. And that wasn't as clear before. So I know that we will continue to get updates when it comes to OTI. And we've been pushing around the extension of public comment periods for all of them. This week is a really busy week with EDC and parks related to the Sherman Cove and the waterfront project. I'll be attending the walkthrough on Saturday with EDC. So folks who are interested in these major projects, I know EDC has been blasting it, and so has our council members. We took lead also from CB4 actually this month. Our Housing and Health and Environment Committee had a joint meeting to discuss sanitation in the district and see more or less on some of the recommendations that CB4 had made, where they are and how that might continue to apply up here. So, exciting stuff. And then there was also two kind of like more public space updates, a walkthrough that our district manager led. I know MBPO was present, as was Port Authority, parks, and multiple, agencies. And it was a really great walkthrough from what I gather in terms of being able to address some of the issues near the entrance of the George Washington Bridge that is on parks property on one side, is on Port Authority on the other side, and being able to have, concrete action plans to address pedestrian and cyclist safety in that area. And we're super excited about the elevator that will at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, be installed at 168th Street along the one line. Of course, accessibility uptown is a huge issue. So, we're excited one by one that these improvements are being made. And I think that covers the bulk of my report. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kathy. Feel better. Next, we'll go to CB1.
Hello and good morning, everybody. We've had a bonkers, crazy month in Community Board 1 for everything having to do with resiliency. If it has to do with water coming from the sky, water coming from the rivers, water coming from everywhere, we have been discussing it. So I think since we've last seen you, we've had no less than 6 resiliency meetings. for different regions, factions, and agencies. It's kind of insane. It culminates tonight, and I want to thank the borough president for helping us with our civic engagement and working with our new congressman, Goldman. We're having a town hall, and that really has hopefully will be the last resiliency meeting we have this month. We passed a resolution for the public comment on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers HAT study, which includes a letter that was generated and driven from the Hudson River Park Trust Advisory Council, looking for a task force working group that will work for all resiliency and take a really cloud view of what could happen on the West Side Highway. We're really not looking for 9-foot walls to wall in the entire west side of Manhattan. And that's not only in CB1, that extends all the way up. So our hope is that through public comment from the Army Corps of Engineers, which has been extended to March 31st, and our town hall tonight with all our stakeholders there, that we can make some progress there. We also passed a redistricting resolution and note that CB1 has been chopped up in a variety of different ways with all the redistricting, and our hopes and looks at a holistic vision for really enhancing community engagement and connection, because we have far more connections with the people who live across the street from us than across the river on a different island. So that's an important part to know, and that we would like to make sure that all of our locations, like, Governor's Island, are in the same governance. So currently, under the senatorial maps, they're with Brooklyn, even though everything that has to do with Governor's Island is solely under the jurisdiction of Manhattan. So a little bizarre, but we're working through it. I also want to say thank you to the borough president and Senator Kavanaugh for setting up a meeting to discuss the Manhattan portion of the BBJ program and the issues that we've been having with the stakeholders in the room. This has been the first meeting that I can remember since becoming chair 2 years ago that we've actually had progress made in the space and gotten some information and answers and foils that have been outstanding for years at this point. So I really want to say thank you for that. And I want to note that we did have a really interesting discussion with New York Waterways, who I'm excited to say is working on hybrid vessels that'll service the Brookfield Pier. And our goal, of course, with so many ferries is to really take a look and have a larger discussion about chicken and egg for infrastructure, about what gets built so we can truly try and hybridize and even go as far as fully electric ferries in the future without obstacles. And then lastly, we talked in January about having the bathrooms working group who is shopping around to the other community boards to get holistic. We talked about having a text amendment come to ensure that there's bathroom access for every POPs that's out there, because the POPs that are putting in restaurants or kiosks or serving food that don't have a place for the public to use the restrooms. The next step for us is to start a resolution, which I know time is of the essence. We're really looking at the expanded seating opportunities that the roadbed dining has. We have several restaurants in our neighborhood that may have only 50 to 70 seats on the inside, and that's what their bathrooms are coded for, according to the building department. However, with sidewalk seating and roadbed seating, we've got a restaurant that has well over 200 seats, more than double their capacity, and yet there's not enough bathrooms. So the question starts to become, once we get all of that seating, I don't really care if it's seasonal, it doesn't make a difference to me. It does make a difference that if you're going to be able to expand a restaurant, that we need to have restrooms available for that. And this could also then be an opportunity to provide, from some type of an incentive, a publicly accessible restaurant on the street bed. So instead of having just full seating, or in some cases where we have seating and a storage room that has been built for the restaurant on the street, that we could really take a look at doing public benefit in the public space and having greater amounts of public restrooms. And with that, I hope that our streets come cleaner and we have places that people can go that's clean and safe. And I close my report, I believe, for Community Board 1. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Thank you again for hosting. It was awesome going up to Harlem, and brunch was great. And yeah, I'll be looking around CB1, seeing where we can meet next. So thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. Next we'll go to CB2.
Hi, good morning. I'm going to start with sort of chiming on with Tammy about coordinating resiliency. And you can see from my background here, this is a view from the pathway next to the water at Hudson River Park. And we really need to coordinate resiliency, and we really need to look at ideas that are other than a wall. My biggest concern about a wall, other than it's ugly, is it really privatizes the waterfront views, and it basically privatizes those for people who live across the street on high enough floors to take in the view, and not the rest of the residents of the city who can walk along the pathways along the water and enjoy a beautiful sunset like you see in my background. So resiliency is critical, but creating a wall and blocking off one of the biggest benefits to living in Manhattan. I'm almost a mile away, but I still walk here all the time, and provides peace and joy and tranquility in an otherwise busy city. And I just want to sort of highlight that. On the education front, we had a very interesting meeting with addressing the needs of our schools that are dealing with increased enrollments with asylum seeker students and their families. We had the District 2 superintendent, Kelly McGuire, as well as Rennie Fong, the PS 130 principal in Chinatown, and that school has enrolled more than 50 students. What we found is that the uptown schools that were the first to receive these students are sort of advising the downtown schools, but everything is, everybody has the same questions. And I think this could be potentially a role for the borough president's office, or working with the DOE, is really coming up with sort of a one-stop shopping list. This is how you get immunization. This is how you get healthcare. These are the service for these kids dealing with trauma. This is how we get English language services for the students and their parents. The parents want to work. How do they work? And there's so many issues, and they're all the same questions. And I just feel like each school has to reinvent the wheel. And this is sort of a social services issue, human services issue, as well as an education issue, and possibly something that the community boards could band together on with the borough president's office. So I just want to throw that out there. Last night, we had our first discussion with our Equity, Race, and Justice Committee on tableside racism. Like, why do members of underrepresented communities continue to experience disparate treatment at restaurants, bars, and nightclubs? And where can justice be found? We had Daryl Cochran, who's the director of Manhattan Community Service Center for the New York City Commission on Human Rights. He's also, I think we learned, a member of Community Board 12, and he was fantastic. A few observations. This kind of tableside racism regularly happens, and CB2 probably has the most restaurants in the city. So we're a destination, and people need to be treated fairly when they come here to dine. There were several committee members who had negative experiences in just the last week. People don't know their rights. Can there be signs in restaurants? There's an opportunity, I think, for some legislation here at the city and the state level. It needs to be much easier to report. You can report it on the 311 website, but the app, it's not on there, and it's not in it. But if it goes, and then the real question is, how do you tie this to liquor licenses? The state SLA doesn't look at 311, it only looks at adjudicated cases, and that makes a lot of sense. But this is a critical issue, and it regularly happens, and we're just starting to look into this, but I just wanted to share that with you, and would encourage you to invite Dale Cochran to your board meetings as well. Shifting to more logistics, love the census presentation. I'm a data geek. I actually have a census folder bookmark on my computer. So I've used the old system. This one looks much more exciting. And then on the hybrid meetings, our office has coordinated. We've reached out to Barry, we've reached out to other community boards, but we really need guidance. We need a shopping list. We need, what are the 5 things the board needs to buy? So when we travel to a location, we can have, with Wi-Fi, we can have 2-way sound and an easy mobile system to set up, because, you know, our board office will work for small meetings, but it will not work for large meetings. And I just want to say that this is my last month as Community Board 2 chair. We have 2 one-year terms and I'm at the end. So I just want to say I'm grateful for all of you. And I want to particularly thank the Borough President's Office, Tricia and Andrew, as well as the whole Human Resources Department as we went through an 8-month process to hire a new district manager. I want to thank the other chairs, particularly those downtown, since we've relied on advice, coordination, texting. I thank all the elected officials who've been responsive to our community needs, the CB2 board members who really stepped up to help, particularly over the last 8 months. And most people on this call won't ever meet them, but I do want to just do a shout out to the CB2 staff, Eva Mai, Francine Lang, and Florence Arenas, who really held down the CB2 for when our DM retired and our ADM accepted a new position. And these people work hard behind the scenes and they make our community boards work. So with that, I just want to thank everyone. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Janine. We will miss you very much. I suspect that, I know we're talking later on today, but we'll, I suspect that we'll see you still very much active in the community. And I wanted to say we certainly appreciate particularly your advocacy on all things education. I feel like you kind of cemented in my mind every time I think of CB2. The first thought I have is education advocacy and activism, and that's in large part thanks to you. You brought up though a couple things, and I think it's great to just transition. I want to thank Vicky for making the suggestion, and so I just wanted to let you all know what's going to happen next month. Vicky had suggested that it would be great to have a slightly less structured borough board meeting without a planned speaker, so that we might be able to spend a little bit more time just doing what we just did here, but maybe in a expanded way of sharing some best practices and other thoughts on what's going on in everybody's community boards, maybe with a slightly more internal focus of organizational strategies and that sort of thing. I think that with Tariq and Kathy and a new CB12 person, and you know, it's just maybe a really good time to connect that way and talk a little bit more. And I'm taking some good notes here too on things that we you know, even the hybrid piece that you just pointed out of creating checklists and best practices. I appreciate Barry and all of his information sharing there, but we want to kind of intentionally make sure that we have an opportunity to do so. So next month, we will not have a featured speaker, but we'll try to give us a little bit more time to kind of information share just like we did today. I also want to just note that I think next month we'll be taking a vote. So we'll have that at the top of the agenda for a borough board vote in support of the Million Trees Initiative, which you all have passed individually on your boards. So we'll do the vote, and then we will try to spend some time kind of again sharing information and going around, but without a featured speaker, and hopefully having a little bit more open discussion. So thank you, Vicky, for that suggestion. Thank you, Janine, for highlighting some of the possible topics to cover. And if there's anybody else who, you know, I would encourage you to think this month if there's anything else internally that you'd like to share with this group. It's an incredibly well-informed group, and I look forward to the discussion. The only other thing that I'll note is that I see now that boards 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 have all said that they would like to co-sponsor the kind of US Census Bureau Accessing Your Data event. So I'll come and follow up with 4, 6, and 12 just to see if they also would like to co-sponsor, and I will try to get you guys a flyer hopefully before the end of this week. I see Vicky, and then I see Tammy.
Thank you, Tricia. First of all, I'm really excited about next month. I think that's a great idea, even if it's mine. I really think it's something that we all need to do, and I'm sorry I missed a wonderful get together. But if I could, Tricia, I forgot to mention one thing, and it's really a reach out to the rest of the board. So if I could very quickly just mention something. We're on a campaign to get the bikes off of sidewalks, especially delivery bikes. In Midtown, it's absolutely disastrous. A number of our neighborhood associations have been pushing for this. We've had people run over, knocked down. I'm sure you all know all the gory details. What we'd like to do is have a public service announcement on the Link New NYC phone kiosks. And we're right now looking at information and what kind of wording we would have. We are of the belief that it would really be helpful if this was true all over the city. And so we're asking if any of the other community boards would be interested and would be a part of putting together the information that would go on. You know, what the law is, you're not allowed to ride on the sidewalks, everything. But we think it's important that the wording be the same throughout the city. And so if any of you and your boards would be interested in joining us in this endeavor, please let us know. Let me know. Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Vicki. And I see Tammy.
Vicki, we're definitely down for that. Have no fears. It's a topic we talk about every month. But my comment is whatever signage we do has to be multilingual. The most important thing to me is that it's accessible to the variety. Tricia, the other thing when we do next month that I know our schedules are very, very packed, but it would be really great if there was an opportunity to do any kind of Q&A or set up a format where if, for example, I'll just say Barry is talking about something and we have a question or there's a similarity that we would like to be able to partner or comment. We don't have as much cross chat as we used to. Now I understand that it's a little bit more formal, which gives us an opportunity to go more speedy. But if there's a way to figure out that we can have questions or, you know, one or two hands to ask questions to provide the synergy in the meeting, that would, I think, be really helpful. And I'm not sure what vehicle the borough president wants to work that in, whether it's through chat or whatever, but having that dialogue.
Yeah, we can talk about it more, but honestly, let me just say, you're always welcome to do so. Anybody who ever wants to like follow up with something or ask a question or do that, no issues here on our end. I think that like in general, we should definitely talk about this next month too, but I think we encourage folks to like put events or like kind of just general announcements that aren't necessarily collaborative in the chat just to cut down on those pieces. Also, it's nice because then selfishly I get to copy and paste them into things and it's a little faster for us. But any sort of like questions that you have or even comments just to say, oh, we're dealing with the same thing in our area, or oh, the suggestion that you made, Tammy, to Barry about reaching out to certain agencies or organizations, always welcome, and definitely kind of it's a core part of our purpose of getting together like this. So absolutely worth kind of repeating. You could do it in the chat, you can do it in raising your hand. I appreciate an efficient meeting, and I'm always quick to call people out and thank them for that, but also never want to sacrifice content that's good and relevant. So it's just a balance, so definitely let's talk about it next month, but everybody should always know that I'm never gonna, I promise not to give you any stink eye or anything like that if you're wanting to comment on somebody else's report. I think it's a great thing. Okay, with that, and speaking of ending things when they should be ended, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. I believe the ayes have it. You guys have a great rest of your month and week, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone.